Hi, I'm Zach.
And I'm Stephanie. And this is episode 587 of the Lawyerist Podcast, part of the Legal Talk Network. Today, I'm talking with Jack Newton, CEO of Clio, about a small firm's response to all the things that are happening in the world today with AI.
So, Stephanie, thinking about small firms and the different responses that they have, a lot of times we think about small firms and we think solos or firms that are early in their journey. Yeah. We think about small firms and firms that don't do a lot or something like that. You know, there's a lot of not that don't do a lot, but there's a lot of like,
they're working on scaling, they're working on their ops, they're trying to hire, they're early. I think you nailed it when you said early in their growth stage in terms of their business, right? They're in that, right. What do we do next? And we have a lot to tackle kind of stage.
Yeah. But not all small firms are in that stage.
No.
You know, you just did a retreat for some of our more advanced firms that we have in our Lawyerist Lab program. You went to Tulum, Mexico.
I know everyone feels sad for me that I had to go to Mexico for work. I had to spend a few days.
It's like raining and cold here, and you're in Tulum, Mexico, sending photos from the beach.
I know it was torture, but I read a good meme that said, you know, you need to make small decisions in a meeting, big decisions at a bar, and huge decisions on the beach. And I was like, okay. And so this was a retreat where you make big decisions. And you know, I had a group of law firm owners who, like you said, do they have it all figured out? No, but they're in a different stage of their development. They do have teams in place. They do have systems in place, but now they're thinking about what's next. What's that next level of leadership that I need to bring, as now they're being challenged to lead the leaders, right? That's a new level of opportunity that our clients face as their firms grow, as they mature. Maybe they want to differentiate themselves in the market. They're looking at different revenue streams. They're thinking about profitability different, and they're really thinking about their role different. So it's interesting. I've been kind of contemplating this for the last couple of days because some of the issues they're struggling with feel very similar in that they feel I'm the bottleneck. And when you're early in your growth stage, you do feel like I'm the bottleneck and you're the bottleneck and you need to hire a team. Now at this stage, you're still the bottleneck, but it's showing up differently as you continue to offload work and delegate to a team that's doing the work and freeing you up for some of the bigger picture strategy thinking that is required.
You know, shouldn't you always be the bottleneck? Like if you think about it, and I hadn't really had it in my brain where these like stage 4 firms, these stage 3, stage 4 that are thinking about legacy, that are thinking about things like that. Yeah, the firm owner still should be the bottleneck because they're getting everybody else in place and they're the ones kind of on the vanguard, on the cutting edge of what the firm is doing. And so yeah, they're probably the ones that are trying to get things figured out. And sometimes that's slower and sometimes that winds up feeling like a bottleneck.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to keep processing on it, but it definitely I don't know, but I definitely think the message here is that no matter what stage your firm is in, there's still opportunities for growth, right? That not necessarily growth in terms of people, but maybe in terms of your own personal development or how you're thinking about your business. I think that work never stops. And you know that sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to have this business and I'm going to build it, and then one day it's just going to run. And then my job here is done. And I think that probably is false. Sorry to tell people that, no, there's just different, it changes, it evolves, but it still requires, and you have to change and evolve with it. And that's what we were doing at this retreat, is really thinking about what does that change in evolvement look like for us as leaders?
I like it. Well, on that note, what does that change and evolvement look like to us as law firm or lawyers in this new crazy ass age of artificial intelligence helping us with our firms? And that's what you're talking about with Jack Newton here shortly.
Hi, I'm Jack Newton, the founder and CEO of Clio.
Hey, Jack, I'm excited to talk to you today. We're actually live at ClioCon 2025.
Isn't this fun?
always so much fun, so much energy in the room. Your team brings it. They do an amazing job.
They kick things off, and then the attendees keep it going. It's always one of my most enjoyable 2 days of the year. I just love it.
Absolutely. And it's super exciting because your keynote this morning kicked off all this amazing stuff that you guys are doing. I mean, there was a lot packed into
There's a lot in there.
keynote.
There's a lot in there.
But I want to dig into a few of them. So one of the big announcements that maybe have people a little bit nervous in the room is that Clio's investing more heavily in upmarket and announced Clio for Enterprise for Clio.
Clio for Enterprise.
Clio for Enterprise, yes. And so what I thought I would do with you is we deal with a lot of small firms, and I'm going to sit in their shoes and think about what they might be afraid of. And obviously the first thing they're probably afraid of is, Jack, glad for you, but what does this mean for us? Is there, are we in jeopardy? How do you focus on that larger market and still innovate for the small firms?
Well, I understand that concern, and I really deliberately wanted to try to get ahead of that in the keynote, in emphasizing that this is not an or proposition, this is an and proposition. We are making a dedicated net new investment in the enterprise. This is a dedicated team. This is an incremental team. And Clio is now of a scale where we can make these kinds of investments and not make them at the expense of our solo and small to medium-sized firm foundation that we've built this company on. And just to give you a sense of Clio's scale today, we are well over 300 million of annual recurring revenue. We'll end this year at over 2,000 employees. So we've become a very scaled company. And, if I was a solo or small firm customer of Clio, I would actually be excited about this evolution because it's just about more opportunity and more ability to invest from Clio in our core technologies that benefit firms of all sizes. One great example of that is the investment we're making in AI.
Yeah.
And again, we took a big swing this year with the acquisition of VLEX for $1 billion.
I know.
Not an insignificant sum. And we're bringing that technology, and I think that was something you saw being very well received in the keynote, is the technology behind Vincent is being woven into the fabric of Clio. And this was a technology that just 6 months ago was only accessible to the largest law firms in the world with deep pockets. And now we've woven that into Clio Work in a very accessible way, in a way that actually gives small to medium-sized firms capabilities that are even more powerful than their large firm counterparts might have.
Right.
And so this idea that we're able to invest and make very deep investments in technology with a view that those technology investments will accrue to the benefit of all of our customers, regardless of whether they're a solo or a lawyer practicing at a 1,000-person firm, is really our foundational thesis. And that if we do a good job of executing on this vision and capture everything from the small to medium-sized segment all the way up to the enterprise, we'll be better positioned than any other company in the world to make truly deep and transformative investments in technology. I'll tell you the simple math that should also let our small to medium-sized customers sleep easy at night, and that is 80% of all lawyers practice in firms of 10 lawyers or less. Half of all lawyers practice as solos. And the founding thesis of Clio was, even if all we ever did is service that segment, that would be a significant supermajority of the market.
Yeah.
And we have no plans of turning our back or turning away from that segment of the market. If anything, we're doubling down in that segment and see enterprise, as I said, it's a net new incremental opportunity that will ultimately allow us to better serve that solo small firm segment.
Well, I love it because, we've talked about this before too. I always say my small firms, they're the little speedboats of the world, right? And so they can embrace this technology if it's accessible to them. I think they are well leveraged to really make big jumps in the market right now. I mean, the big firms are the barges.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the cloud adoption cycle. And frankly, that's one of the reasons we focus so intently on solos and small firms is they were in such abject pain in the on-prem world that they jumped to the cloud. And they immediately embraced it because they immediately saw the benefits of the cloud. And I'm seeing the same pattern with AI. These solo small firm lawyers that, I love the analogy, they are the speedboats of the legal industry, and they can see a technology that can help them and have it implemented and adopted the next day.
I know. I have the benefit. So I had a mid-sized firm call me and they're like, we want your help with AI. And I was like, awesome. And they're like, can you be on our AI committee?
Right.
And I kind of laughed. I was like, let me get back to my small firms where we build it on site with them in an afternoon and it's up.
Exactly. You don't need the partners to sign off on it. You don't have a committee. And I think solos and small firms should realize this agility is their superpower.
Yes.
And getting things done at large firms, like, they're big, scary monoliths on one hand, but they are, many of them, this isn't universal, but many of them are slower moving. There's a lot of committees, there's a lot of approvals, there's a lot of sign-offs. And again, that the pace at which technology is advancing, these solo small firms are uniquely well positioned to take advantage of that pace of change.
Yes.
And leave their slower moving counterparts. And by the way, there's slow moving counterparts in the solo small firm space as well.
For sure.
But if you just figure out how to be on the front half of that technology diffusion curve, you're going to be in a massively improved competitive position.
Yeah, no, I agree. So you did even show us so many things this morning that Clio Work can now do. And there's a lot to unpack there, right? And I still feel like there's probably, I like sitting back, as excited as I was like, okay, some of this tech is still people need to learn how to use it. They need to get comfortable with it. So I guess I wanted to ask, if you're getting started with it today, where would you tell people to start? Like, what's the low hanging fruit? They're like, okay, I'm ready to do it. I'm a speedboat, but it's also overwhelming.
Yeah, it is overwhelming. There's a lot to unpack. But I think what's so great about having these technologies integrated deeply into Clio is we actually want AI and what we're building with Clio Work to feel like a current that is pulling you through your workflows rather than something you're needing to seek out and figure out how to use. So to give you an example of what that looks like, if you buy Clio today and you buy Clio Work, it's this intelligent legal work platform with Clio Work at the heart of that platform, helping you understand your own matters and the legal issues in those matters better. So all you need to do is work in Clio as you normally would. You upload your documents, you describe your client, and Clio Work will transparently in the background start parsing your documents, start understanding your case, starting looking at the dockets that relate to that case, and surface insights to you and offer you help. And it will offer you to advance the case in specific ways. And again, act as this silent force kind of pulling you through your workflows. And I think that's AI at its best. If you look at even the interactions you have with ChatGPT, maybe asking it a simple question to start with, it often has a follow-on suggestion almost. Would you like help building a spreadsheet to track the invitations to your birthday party? And we see Clio Work as having the same kind of opportunity where, thanks to the context we have in your practice, we're seeing the incoming emails, we're seeing the dockets get updated, we're seeing updates from calendar rules in terms of key deadlines that are coming up. We're seeing every document that is flowing into that matter. We have this incredibly rich context to help you decide what the next action you should take. And in some cases, we can even help start taking that action on your behalf. And so I think when it's executed well, AI is not something, I think the way so many people feel right now is, I've got 5 different AI point solutions. How do I actually put them in my workflow? We believe AI should be woven into your day-to-day workflows where leveraging it and taking advantage of it actually feels effortless. So to answer your question in kind of a long-winded way, the answer is just start using Clio as you normally would, but with Clio Work turned on, and you will start to see all the places you can leverage AI in your practice automatically surface to you.
Okay.
The other thing is you can, I always say, experiment with AI, play around with it.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to go into Clio Work and ask the dumb question of Vincent that you might have been afraid to ask your associate or your colleague.
I think that's a hard one for lawyers because, I mean, I think someone on your team said this to me yesterday. Like, lawyers inherently are trained not to fail.
Yes.
Perfection is so much a part of our profession, of what we're expected. So the idea that we would go and create a place where we play and experiment is very hard for us.
It's very counterculture. I think you're hitting on a super important point. But I think what is beautiful about AI is, you know, if you do have that maybe lack of vulnerability, you can be vulnerable with your AI. You can say, I don't understand this legal issue. I don't understand this argument. Help me understand it. And I think what is so beautiful about AI is whether you're using it to help your kid learn math or using it to navigate a sophisticated legal issue, you can be vulnerable with the AI in a way that you might never be comfortable with another human being.
I hear that, and I hear people saying to me, but how can we trust this thing? Because they've seen the news reports, they've seen the hallucinations, and I think it's not the tool's fault, it's the lawyers. I mean, right.
Well, I think it's
but I think you guys have a different
issue.
you guys have
So
a different answer to that. So I wanted you to be able to address that too.
It's a great question, and I think a really important observation. And to my earlier comment, I think, you know, what is beautiful about AI is it's unjudging. It has no judgment, and it's not going to make you feel like a bad person for asking a dumb question.
Yeah.
It's endlessly patient. It will spend hours explaining a concept to you and help you go deeper and deeper and deeper in a way that very few humans could. So I think that's something we should leverage and take advantage of. Now, the risks you're talking about with AI are absolutely correct. We see hallucinations. And, you know, one of the underlying points in my keynote today was these general purpose models, the generic models that are trained on the open web,
Right.
are going to be prone to hallucination because they do not have the real legal data to ground their answers in. And one of the most significant assets we acquired with VLEX is not necessarily what people might think is the most obvious asset, which is Vincent, their AI platform, but it's the data.
Exactly.
This incredibly rich data resource of 1 billion legal documents, primary law, secondary sources, that your legal answers will be grounded in. And when Clio Work gives you an answer to your question, it will be able to cite where that answer is coming from, and you will be able to verify that.
Yeah.
And that's fundamental. And where lawyers have gone wrong is in blindly trusting what ChatGPT or another generic off-the-shelf foundational model might give them, which...
Right, and not understanding what it's trained on. I've been telling lawyers now for the last year, would you go to Reddit to draft your purchase and sale agreement? And they look at me like, of course not. And I'm like, then know that some of the tools you might be using, if they're great, you know,
that's right.
That it's essentially that.
But I think to be fair to lawyers that have fallen prey to this hallucination problem, and you see, I showed a slide with dozens of examples of this happening. This is not just Stephen Schwartz in Manhattan. This is a pervasive problem. I think what we need to give those lawyers some credit for is we have been trained to trust computers.
Yes.
Ever since Google, or maybe even earlier, but Google's been around for 25 years now. When you search for something on Google, if you search when is Thanksgiving in the US in 2025, you trust the answer that's coming back. It's going to be correct. When you look up an article on Wikipedia, even though it's a crowdsourced encyclopedia and everything else, you look up something on Wikipedia, 99.9% of the time, that's correct. We've been trained for the last 25 years. When you ask a computer a question, when you ask Google a question, when you ask Wikipedia a question, it's usually right. And so I think our mental model of computers has actually been really disrupted by large language models, because this whole idea that they can hallucinate, and worse, they don't even know they're hallucinating.
Right.
And worse, you don't know what data they are potentially using to confabulate, hallucinate, whatever the case might be, is super dangerous. So I think there's a lot more education that needs to happen around AI and how it works, and just understand that fundamentally these hallucinations are an inherent part of large language models. And there's a recent research paper out of OpenAI that argues these may just be an intractable aspect of LLMs that we'll never be able to engineer around. But you can do a lot to dramatically reduce hallucinations by grounding it in the right data. And then again, I think this idea that a human is always in the loop, like you're going to need to check those citations. And that's where the law grounding the answer is so important. You need to be able to look at the data that is underlying the answers the AI is giving you.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, last year at this time, you at ClioCon, you and I talked about the billable hour being dead and
Yes.
how people need, and it's dying, people. It really is. So this year, I thought I'd ask you if you were advising, because starting a small firm today, you got a partner. Let's just pretend you could start a firm.
Sure.
And so you're going to start your own 2 or 3 person firm. What would you do to make sure that your firm is still relevant and viable in 5, 10, 15 years as all these technology changes are coming at us?
Well, in the technology world, we talk about this dichotomy almost between traditional software companies and AI native software companies. And with AI native companies basically being this new generation of AI companies that have been born in the last 1 or 2 years. And if I was founding a law firm, and by the way, in the software world, these AI native companies are regarded as moving super quickly because they are leveraging AI in everything they're doing, whether it's marketing or sales or financial forecasting, reporting. It's just woven into how they're doing things. And I think this idea of being AI native is how a modern law firm should think about building their operations. I would think about how do I found this law firm from the ground up, assuming that AI, everything that can be powered by AI will be powered by AI. All the way, I would audit the entire client journey, all the way from client intake, all the way to bill payment and referrals at the end of the engagement. How can that be powered by AI? How can I leverage AI every step in that process and be, as much as possible, an AI native law firm? And I think with that view, you will be relentless in thinking aggressively about how you can weave AI into every aspect of your practice. And I think it's got to be from the foundations up. And that is how the AI powered law firm of the future is rapidly going to become, I believe, table stakes. If you're not operating in that way, you will not be competitive in this market.
No, I think I see that. I think about that. We've been thinking about that a lot, for even on our team for our business, but also how do we help lawyers get there? Because they might need a little help. You know, I think that's where we come in. Like,
I do think they need a lot of help. I think all of us need a lot of help. I mean, this has been the most compressed period of technological change the world has ever seen. Not just lawyers, but the world writ large. You know, we're all going through a huge amount of change, a huge amount of transformation, and we need some guiding lights, some yard posts to understand where is this all going, what are the best practices, and importantly, I think what people need is integrated tools. This MIT study that came out earlier this year and caused a huge collapse in the stock market for a week, talked about 95% of AI projects failing. And when you read the report and actually unpack what it said, the 95% of projects that failed were many of these AI projects or pilots that were not embedded in the day-to-day workflows that people actually used. So people would build this kind of cool AI tool or pilot, and then it just kind of withers on the vine because nobody knows how to adopt it into their day-to-day practices. So I think the idea, and again, this is foundational how we're approaching AI at Clio, is how do we embed this deeply in the day-to-day workflows that people are using every day and make leveraging AI as organic feeling as possible.
Awesome. Well, Jack, I think our time is up, but as always, it's always so great to talk to you.
Likewise, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited, and I think you've given everybody a lot to think about and some homework.
There's a lot to process in what we went through today, but thanks for taking the time to talk to me about it today, and look forward to chatting again.
Thank you.